All right, guys, we are back. Ben's and I fighting over paperwork here. Ben, we are here to talk about the MLG Call of Duty Season 1 League. Of course, following our Winter Invitational, we invited 10 teams to compete in an online league. All of the matches have been streamed on MLG.tv, and we're coming down to the wire. The final matches being played before the PAX Finals. 6 teams going to advance to that PAX tournament. Where are we at right now? Who's on top? Who's on bottom?
I was amazed at just how close to the end it actually really was. And looking today, I was looking at the table. You have FaZe on the top of the leaderboard, and I keep sort of praising FaZe recently. I've been saying how they're my team to really watch out for. They've had a really good run so far. But at the other side, you have both Curse teams, Curse New York and Curse Youth, who are really struggling this season.
Yeah, Curse Youth, they were looking very strong in some 2Ks right before we started Season 1. We gave them the invite. So far, though, they're 8-16.
Yeah, it's not gone well, really.
Really rough.
Yeah.
Just 38 game wins to their 57 losses as well. They have the most losses of any team in the league. In your opinion, where is Curse Youth struggling? What do they need to fix on this squad?
It's a tough question, to be honest, but I think they've had a very tough run of games. That's definitely been something that hasn't really helped them. They've played against some of the top teams in the league already, and they, to be honest, haven't really performed as well as they should. And I think it may be just a little bit of pressure, maybe unnecessary pressure they're putting on themselves as opposed to anything else. They're sat there thinking, oh, well, we couldn't play at champs when we're not old enough, that kind of pressure. And then this is their one real big thing, I guess you could say, because everyone else is praying for world champs at the end.
Well, we saw Methods get all the way to the finals of the 2K.
That's true.
This past weekend. He wasn't playing with his lineup, though. Had a kind of a pickup squad for that 2K. But let's continue going through some of these teams. Of course, we'll see if Curse Youth can bounce back. It's not looking likely that they will be able to sneak into the top 6 regardless. Just not many days left. In fact, how many days do we have left of matches before this wraps up?
So we have this week, and then it goes all the way through to next week. And you can see today's match is actually there on your screen. 7 p.m. Eastern, Curse Youth versus Curse NY. And that's, to be honest, that is a very big game. It's actually a game that I highlighted when I was going through them, because it really is becoming that sort of relegation battle, if anything else. Both teams there, no one really wants to finish last. And at the other side, OpTic versus Strictly Business. And this is a very interesting game as well, because this is a preview of the OpTic LAN, which is going to be happening next week as well. So you can kind of get your first taste between those two teams. 8:30, Curse New York versus Strictly Business, Curse Youth versus OpTic. Another big game for OpTic there, and they're kind of, I don't want to say struggling, but they're currently in 8th place overall, 9 wins. They do really need to just try and step things up here. And playing against Curse Youth, that really should give them an added lift. I mean, playing Strictly Business, that's a different matter. They're obviously US champions. They've been playing very well. 10 p.m. OpTic versus Curse NY. Another must-win game for OpTic Gaming. Strictly Business versus Curse Youth. Well, the US champions should take that, no problem.
It's going to be interesting. Let's go through this list a little bit. So we have FaZe on top.
Yeah.
Currently sitting at 16-8. At the bottom, we have Curse Youth at 8-16.
Yeah.
So inverse there. Complexity, though, has actually moved up to the number 2 spot. They're at 14-10.
Yep.
And at the bottom, we're going to see Curse New York 10-14.
Yeah, it's been very rough for Curse New York, much like Curse Youth. Again, they've had a very sort of tough run, I want to say. They've played some of the top teams in succession, and that can be very sort of demotivating. When you lose once, then all of a sudden you're playing another top team, you're never really catching a break. A bit unfortunate, but that's just the way things go. And you can actually finally see the overall leaderboard there on your screen now. And FaZe 16 matches won. I mean, you have to go back to it. And what's really interesting for me as well is in tomorrow's games, FaZe they play 3 times, and they're playing against teams of which are all in the bottom. I believe it's the bottom 4. So there's ever going to be a chance for them to really extend that lead out. It's going to be on Wednesday. But, SB sitting in 4th, I mean, they're your US champions, and you can see TK, SB, and Curse LV all tied there on 13 matches won.
Now remember, the top 6 will advance to PAX. So if you're Justice right now, you're in a must-win situation. They do have quite a few losses, though. They've played a lot of matches. OpTic Gaming is really the one that's getting talked quite a bit about on the Reddit thread. Can they sneak into the top 6? How do they get their spot in PAX?
Well, they're going to have to win all 3 games today, if I'm going to be completely honest, because I know there's a very long time left in terms of, you've got a week and a half, but if they can get on level peggings with Justice tonight, it's going to give them confidence going into the next couple of games, because at the end of the day, as you said, they just need to finish in the top 6, right? Don't necessarily need to finish first, you just have to get into that 6th mark, and right now that's where Envy are lying. They have 12 matches won, and that's actually going to put OpTic tied if they win everything tonight.
Yeah, if they go 3-0 tonight, they will be tied with Envy, and Curse Las Vegas not too far ahead of them, sitting at 13-11. If you look at the games lost here, OpTic has about 34 games won to the 45 games lost. But continuing down this bracket, you can see here, Strictly Business, not 100% in, but looking pretty strong there with Caliber at 13-11. Curse Las Vegas, so that's my big question mark for you. They were on top of the leaderboard heading into the U.S. Championship. Since then, Killa not playing with this squad, and they are struggling. I believe they were 12-6 at one point, now sitting at 13-11.
Yeah, that just shows you the impact one player can really have on a team there. Killa definitely being missed in terms of that lineup there. But, you know, looking at SB, who are pretty much level pegging right now, 13-11, it only comes down to games won and games lost. It gets interesting for them because they're actually going to play the bottom 2 teams, New York and Youth, twice this week. So they're going to play both those teams twice. And, you know, if you're a betting man, you're looking at that saying, well, that should be 4 wins for them. I mean, you know, Curse Youth and Curse New York really struggling. But when you look at level playing fields so far in the season, they're both 1-1 with both those 2 teams. So it's gone back and forth. So it's 50-50. So you can't necessarily just go by the fact that they're at the bottom of the leaderboard, because when they've gone head to head, it's tied.
So looking at the rest of the schedule here, and guys, if you haven't done this yet, go to MLG.tv/COD League. Everyone is always asking me, where can I find the Call of Duty information? There's a whole page for it. MLG.tv/COD League. It has the standings on there. It has the schedule. Everything that you could possibly want or need to know about that tournament is on there. Also, we have a few links that I'll share on Twitter afterwards. Lots of great work being done by the Reddit community as well as the Gamepedia community. Really keeping everyone up to date with what's happening in the COD League, and especially the Reddit stats guys.
They are
have
insane.
to show so much love to them. If you guys are enjoying this coverage of the COD League, let me know, because I do want to take it a step further. I want to do highlights in the future. I want to bring on different writers from ESN as well as the Reddit community. So after this, if you're interested in one of those positions, make sure you send me a message on Twitter. Hit me up. I'm at MLG Puckett. But Ben, looking through the end of this schedule, kind of talk me through what are some of the biggest matches that you're keeping an eye on.
So the biggest game, without a doubt, is going to happen this Saturday. It's going to be FaZe taking on Complexity. And I kind of think the table's going to stay roughly, you know, the top couple of teams are going to stay as they are. So this is really going to be a big fight for Complexity. I think it's a must-win game for them. But this is what makes Complexity such a good team. Their consistency. They just always seem to be that sort of consistent team. And FaZe at times have been known to throw away certain leads that they may get against
leads
Complexity.
sometimes.
I didn't want to say it, but you went out.
2 tournaments in a row.
Twice in a row they've thrown away a 2-0 lead against Complexity. But, you know, even so, if you just look at FaZe as a whole, they seem to be just a little bit inconsistent. I think that's what they're going to be working on the run-up now to champs. Obviously, not that long left, but if they can get that out of the game, I really think they should be having a good run.
So this one probably won't decide necessarily if they're going in or out. It is going to be a pretty close matchup here. If you look at their numbers again, FaZe is 16-8, so they're pretty much guaranteed in. Complexity behind them at 14-10, but to you, this is a very important match because you think it's going to be the highest caliber of gameplay we're going to see? I think
it's going to be the highest caliber, and I think it is really going to settle for who's going to finish top of that league. I mean, there's another, as I said, week after this. But if FaZe, as I said, can win all the games on Wednesday, they play 3 games, all, you know, the bottom teams, if they can beat them and extend that lead even further, then beat Complexity as well, it really is putting a massive bridge between them and Complexity. And I just personally don't think Complexity is going to be able to close it in that last week.
So a lot of people were doubting Proofy's decision when he said he's going to leave Envy and go to FaZe to play with JCap again. You think it's paying off for them? I
think right now it really is. He's gelled straight back into that team. I mean, Proof and JCap, they finished second at last year's Call of Duty World Championship. You know, someone once said you can't have Proof and JCap on the same team, but they're desperately just trying to prove them wrong, because right now they just seem like an unstoppable force.
And, you know, at US Champs, especially after watching the games, you picked the top 5 closest games from the US Champs. That FaZe versus Complexity game where replays just went off on Warhawk. I think he has been a kind of a silent star. The kid has been good since he was on VVV back in Black Ops 2. I love seeing what he's doing with this squad, playing with Classic, a guy who is relatively unknown entering Call of Duty Ghost this year. This squad is looking really strong. I did not think we would see FaZe on top of Leaderboard, but these boys are really crushing. The question is, can they keep it up on LAN when they get to that PAX event? Remember, guys, the PAX finals are going down. It's going to be the playoffs as well as the grand finals of MLG COD Season 1. That's going down April 11th through the 13th in Boston. Hopefully, I'll be able to fly Benson back unless we can't find his passport.
Let's not go there.
Anyway, I bought Benson an iPad today. I may or may not have lost his stuff. All right, Ben, let's go down the schedule here. Are there any major matches that you think will have an effect and determine or help us determine who will be in the top 6 and who won't?
I think it's going to come down to the Justice and their games, especially because OpTic are in a position where, as I said, if they can win all 3 games today, which personally I don't think they're going to be able to do so because they do play SB. I'm expecting OpTic to come out today maybe 2-1, win 2, lose 1 potentially, but it's going to be one of those positions, I think, where for OpTic to qualify, it's going to rely on teams like Envy and Justice dropping maps and just closing the gap that way as opposed to anything else. Because, OpTic, as I said, they're getting ready for the LAN where they have SB coming over. That's going to give them some fantastic practice. It really is playing against the US champs. But for me, Justice have that sort of run which is very up and down. They play the teams at the top and they play the teams at the bottom. So there's definitely room. Same with Envy as well. There's definitely room for both of those two teams to drop maps. And I really think when we get to maybe Wednesday next week, you're going to have 2 teams which are 100%. They're going to be at PAX. And there's going to be maybe 3 or 4 teams which are sat there thinking, well, it's time to get serious for those guys.
Well, I'm looking down here at the schedule and I see, of course, OpTic is playing tonight.
Yep.
Tomorrow we have Justice playing.
Yep.
On Thursday, it's going to be TK, Strictly Business, and Envy, as well as FaZe, it looks like, in that mix. And then OpTic and Envy could potentially face off on Friday.
Huge game.
So there's a few opportunities here for actually OpTic and Envy to come in with almost the same score. They could be competing for that 6th place. Justice could make some moves on their Wednesday matches as well. Anything could happen here with the COD League. Let's show you the stats one more time as we wrap this up. We are in one of the final weeks, one more week after this, and then the big PAX event following Call of Duty Championships. Here's a look at it. Those teams on the bubble. No one's quite safe yet. Team Caliber, Strictly Business, Curse Las Vegas, all 13 and 11. Curse Las Vegas could continue to drop. We'll see if they can hold on to a top 6 spot. Envy sitting at 500 with 12 and 12. Justice and OpTic Gaming nipping at their heels. Justice, of course, with a losing record, 12 and 15, but OpTic, they could tie it up at 12-12 if they go 3-0 tonight. Are you counting out Curse New York and Curse Youth at this point?
I don't want to say I'm counting them out because the gap is very small. You have Curse NY with 10, and I believe, 3rd place is tied with 13. It's only 3 matches. You just win all your games in one day. You've got, say another 9-10 days left. There's still plenty of time, but it's at that point where I think everyone has realized it's getting to the end of the season, and these are must-win games for everybody. You can't afford to be dropping these games. So for me, I don't think either of the Curse teams are going to get through. The big team to really watch out for is, as you made a point, Curse LV. How are they going to manage? Because, as you said, since Killer has been subbed out, they've been falling and falling down that leaderboard, and they've been dropping some serious maps. So going up against teams like OpTic and teams like Envy who need those wins, that could be crucial games, which if OpTic and Envy are able to pick up, could actually knock Curse LV out, and that could be 3 Curse teams not qualifying for PAX.
And that would be absolutely crazy.
That would be mind-boggling. I don't think that's going to happen, but
I honestly
it's a possibility.
Want to see Curse Las Vegas go through just to see who they're going to team with.
Right.
Who's going to be on that final PAX roster.
Big questions.
It's going to be interesting. One more time, we'll show you the matches for tonight. It continues 7 p.m. Some must-win matches for OpTic Gaming. You got Curse Youth, Curse New York facing off at 7. Same time, though, as OpTic and Strictly Business. I know which one of those two I'm tuning in for. Curse New York and Strictly Business facing off at 8:30, and Curse Youth versus OpTic. And then at 10 o'clock, OpTic New York, Strictly Business, Curse Youth.
Yeah, some fantastic games tonight. And as I said, watch out for OpTic. This is a big day for them. And if they can win all 3 games, that's going to put them in such a good position going into the later part, and I would really expect them then to qualify. I'm expecting, as I said, maybe a 2-1 split, beat both the Curse teams and then maybe not beat SB, but then, it's hard to say because they're going to be playing SB on LAN next week, so I don't know. I just think the US champs should be able to take that game, and If they are, then SB, are they potentially going to finish at the top? Who knows?
You know, SB definitely had their day in the sun at COD Champs. Was it a fluke? That's a question I'm getting from a lot of people. Is there too much hype behind SB? As a caster who's watched their games in and out, is it real?
Yeah.
Is strictly business
100%.
the real deal?
100% the real deal. And I think it's just come from the motivation and the desire to want to win. And it's got to that point now where it really is a team that wants to win the most is going to win, because for so long we had Complexity who just didn't like losing. I mean, what is that word? It's not in any of their dictionaries. It was just impossible. They had Mr. X as well, coaching, keeping them motivated all the time, and they were just, in my eyes, the team that wanted to win the most. You look back at last year, you had the Impact lineup, same thing. They were the team that wanted to win the most, and it's got to the point now where SB approaching Call of Duty Champions, in my eyes, they're the team that just wants it. They really do, and they played Complexity. I believe it was a couple of days ago, maybe last week in the league, and they 3-0'd them. So they definitely have the skill. They definitely have the drive. So you have to consider them a top team.
Well, we saw OpTic want to win quite a few times at the U.S. Championships. They fell in Game 5 to Envy. They then met up against Curse New York and were taken to Game 5 a second time, almost eliminated. Were able to go big. Nadeshot had one of his best games ever, just showing his pure will to win in that search and destroy. How bad does OpTic want it tonight, and can they make the 3-0 over Strictly Business? If they do, who steps up for this squad?
For me, it's going to be, I would say, Embos. No disrespect to Embos. I think he had a good Call of Duty, US championship, but it was times where he was a little bit inconsistent. And I think if he can wipe that out, if he can just get, I'm not sure really what it is. You'd have to ask him. Maybe it's just he's thinking about too many stuff. Who knows what it is? Because he's definitely a very talented player. I mean, I was seeing tweets earlier on in my timeline saying how Embos is such a god at search and destroy, which is just very true. He's a very, very talented search and destroy player and very, very talented objective player. So if him and Nadeshot can just find that click in this last week, their objective play is going to be unreal, because as you said, Nadeshot as well in search and destroy. I mean, we all know what he can do. He's a fantastic search and destroy player. So those two in the objective-based game modes, in Blitz, in Domination, if they can really lock down that team chemistry, and I think that's what's going to be big for them with that LAN next week against SB, it's going to give them perfect chance to really try and lock that down, because SB, we know what their communication's like, we know what their teamwork's like. Right now, they're on another level.
Well, I'm excited, man. OpTic Gaming, Strictly Business going down at 7 o'clock, as well as Mochila and Curse New York going up against Methods and Curse Youth. Definitely going to be some incredible matches. You guys can catch all of it at MLG.tv/COD League or any of the team channels they'll be broadcasting from their point of view. Ben, we're not done yet with Call of Duty, though. We're going to commercial break. What's coming up after this?
After this, we're going to be recapping last weekend's 2K.
Be right back.